The Oroville Dam was built in 1968 and is the tallest earthen dam in the United States. The dam resides in California in Impounds Lake, Oroville. The dam is used mainly for water supply, hydroelectricity generation, and flood control. On February 7, 2017, a large crater appeared in the main spillway. The cause of this crater was most likely due to slab cracking, which then led to corrosion of rebar and anchors and water erosion under the slab. To avoid causing more damage to the main spillway, the rate of water released was slowed down, which led to water levels rising in the lake. With the water levels high, water flowed over the emergency spillway and caused more erosion and damage than was expected. Preventative measures were taken to try and repair the erosion damage caused by the emergency spillway, while the rate of water released on the main spillway was increased to lower the water level of the lake. Increasing the release of water further eroded the hillside adjacent to the main spillway and eventually created a debris dam which forced the closure of the hydroelectric plant. Due to all the erosion surrounding both the spillways, there was fear that the gate would collapse, which would cause a massive water release, sending life-threatening floods to nearby Californian counties. On February 12th, over 180,000 people were told to evacuate due to this fear. The rate of water released was further increased in hopes to try and slow the erosion of the emergency spillway, and by nightfall the water level had lowered, causing the emergency spillway to stop overflowing. The erosion was quickly inspected and then stabilized, and by February 14th, the evacuation order was reduced to an evacuation watch, and people were allowed to return to their homes.
The first decision was made when the dam had started to be constructed. The spillway chute was originally built on poor foundation conditions. Not only was it built on a poor foundation, but basically immediately after the project was open, the concrete chute was cracked above and along the underdrain pipes. That led to higher than expected flows of water underneath the chute. So now the code of ethics could be brought into play here. You have to think about the safety of everyone when stuff like this happens, but they didn't think of a possible failure there. More decisions were to come. The chute had been deteriorating over the years, the rebar and the anchors of the chute corroding. At the day of the failure, there was heavy rainfall, so as there was water running down the spillway chute, the water crept into the cracks that were not addressed properly. Because of errors in the construction, the spillway erupted and putting the lives of 200,000 people in danger. So not only bad decisions were made by some engineers in designing the chute, bad decisions were made by dam owners to choose to not repair the flaws. So overall, the code of ethics can come into play into some poor decisions. First, when constructed, choosing not to repair the flaws, and then letting water almost destroy the emergency spillway. Fortunately, no one was harmed.
There were a few ways in the process of the making and maintaining of the Oroville Dam where some actions could have been taken so that this crisis could have been avoided. First of all, the foundational rock underneath the main spillway could have been stabilized to be less susceptible to erosion. Much of the rock underneath the spillway, especially where the damage occurred, was soft rock and clay material, and should have been reinforced with harder material before the main spillway was even built to prevent the amount of erosion that occurred. Secondly, the spillway repairs needed to be of better quality, as analysis after the crisis determined that the repairs made to the chute were insufficient and were prone to fail again, as they would eventually, causing the spillway failure. Lastly, a paved emergency spillway would have been an investment that would have prevented much of the erosion damage that resulted from the main spillway damage. In 2005, a $100 million project to pave the designated emergency spillway area was rejected by federal regulators. However, having a paved spillway in the 2017 incident would have prevented a good portion of the massive amount of erosion caused by the spillway failure, which ended up costing over $1 billion in damage and cleanup efforts.
In the Oroville Dam failure, there were two main code of ethics broken. The first one was the first code, which states, engineers should hold paramount the safety, health, and welfare of the public. The Oroville Dam did not have proper inspections done while in use. They only had temporary inspections that failed to identify design flaws. The second code broken was the second code, which states engineers must only perform services only in areas of their competence. The designer of the Oroville Dam had no previous professional experience designing spillways and was hired directly out of a postgraduate program. The dam failure also caused much harm to the city and residents. 188,000 people were evacuated when the spill occurred, which cost a lot of money to businesses, the tourism went down, and the residents were very worried about the safety coming back. The dam also ended up costing them about $1.1 billion, not including all the damages from the spill. Parks, an employee from the DWR, stated, "We should have recognized this years ago, and it is devastating for our reputation."